Welcome back, fam. It's your girl, Biola Akani, here with a new YouTube video. What is going on, y'all? I hope this video finds you well and that you are embodying the practices that are supporting you and feeling good in your body. I'm really excited about this video because I've been telling y'all for some time now that I want to expand beyond yoga content and get more into other aspects of wellness and well-being. And this video is very personal, but also emblematic of the journey that I've had with healing familial or family trauma and wounds. And this video might sound a little harsh. I'm going to be mindful to share what I'm going to share in love. It's going to be very different from a lot of what you've probably heard out there, in that it's not going to handhold you, and it's going to be rooted in radical responsibility and accountability, which is really the foundations of how we start to change our behaviors. So before we move into this video, if you are actively moving and dealing with healing family trauma, I just want to tell you that you are not alone. That sounds so corny, but it's so necessary for me to say, because for years of dealing with this by myself, I thought that I was by myself. And I created further narratives to support othering myself in order to create some type of reason why this was happening to me. And I don't want you to go down that loophole. Instead, I want you to receive that you are not alone, that you are not the only person experiencing this type of dysregulation or this type of longing in your heart. And I want to encourage you that it can change. It can absolutely change and be different. And it starts with you. The person that we're focusing on right now is the person watching this video. Know that the change is going to start right here. So let's go ahead and move into this video. Take a moment to hold yourself however you need to, whether that be physically holding, whether that be energetically holding, doing whatever you need to comfort your body and celebrate even just being here and being willing to learn and grow and hold this space for yourself. That celebration is so key to what we're going to get into today. The first way that we begin to interrupt these cycles of trauma that we're experiencing with our family is to begin to release the victimhood. That's really challenging to say, because so many times we are victim to a lot of different things that are happening to us. When we're dealing with familial trauma or family trauma, usually it's because of an older sibling, adult, or family member who's inflicting certain patterns of pain onto us. There is victimization in that. However, when it comes to healing these trauma wounds, if we continue to only identify as a victim, there is no personal accountability that can be taken on our part. And with that, we cannot view and clearly see the aspects of ourselves that are perpetuating this level of trauma. Now, in victimization or in victimhood, there is no accountability that can be taken on our part. As a result, we continue to perpetuate the same trauma because there is no resolve that can happen within our own psyche, within our own mind and patterning of mind, where we can reflect and clearly see what we're doing to keep that narrative and keep that trauma alive, to begin to undo it. Even if it didn't begin with us, it can end with us. Now, I had to really learn this, and it took me a very long time. I pride myself in being a very accountable person, but when it came to my family trauma, I found it really hard for me to take personal accountability for how I was continuing to perpetuate the trauma because of control that I wanted to impress on the other people, to feel a level of heaviness, of guilt, of shame for what they had inflicted on me. And I had to realize that in doing that, I wasn't moving on at all. I was not able to move on because I'm trying to control the emotions of somebody else. I didn't realize it at the time, but by continuing to live in this place of victimhood and victimization, I was abdicating my position of power and authority to end that cycle of suffering and take ownership of my own healing. So I had to get to the point of receiving that I cannot control their work. I can only effectively do my own work. Key number 2, this is huge, is have to tend to your inner child. Like, you got to. Because every reaction that you are having, every trigger that you are having to your family is coming from an unmet need from your inner child. And this took me some time because I kept hearing this and I kept going to her. I kept going to my little Biola in my meditation, and I would scoop her up and I would hold her so tight and tell her all the things that I needed to hear at that time. But I continued to be triggered. I still was not able to trust myself, to fully hold myself, until one day I woke up with so much confidence and ability to hold my inner child, to tell her, I have us. We do not need to use low vibrational manipulative tactics anymore to get our needs met. And I believed it, and my inner child believed it. I remember that day vividly. I knew that I had us. That might take some consistent work to get to that point. However, that's going to be required until you get to a point where you have a high enough reservoir, or you have a high enough love bank that you've poured into yourself, where you're able to meet yourself now as an adult in your emotional body. That might be something you can do alone. That might be something you need to do with a coach or with a therapist or through embodiment practices. Whatever way you need to do it, it has to happen. Or every little thing that folks in your family say is going to trigger you based on how you felt when you were younger, based on what you did not get when you were younger, or what you felt like you had to fight for when you were younger. And continuing to constantly be triggered in that way is just going to further inflame the situation, and it's not going to create the space for you to begin to heal. Now, what I will say is when you're in that place of healing your inner child, separation probably is a must. Knowing that you're in a tender spot and that I'm still actively healing this inner child, And I know that I'm going to be easily triggered when sharing space with certain people. Let me create boundaries. Let me communicate those boundaries and why I'm doing this, and create the space for yourself to move through that. Number 3, the third key to healing generational trauma is to release expectation and exercise non-attachment. Now, I used to pride myself not having any expectation from my family from a very immature ego. Almost like, y'all don't have the ability to show up for me, so I don't even expect anything from you. And what my Buddhism teachers taught me is that is a low love place. Instead, now I'm releasing expectation from a greater understanding that the nature of my family, how I perceive them, is not coming from outside of me. It's coming from inside of me. So, in saying, y'all don't have the capacity to meet my expectations or whatnot, I was saying that from my unhealed inner child. Pridefully, boastfully saying these words externally, still clinging and attaching onto them, showing up a certain way internally. And my internal is creating my external. Once again, how I am perceiving them is not coming from them, it's coming from me. So, what I began to do, and what my Buddhism teachers really helped me to understand, is that let me give them a nature of love. Because at the end of the day, I give things a nature. It's easy to say that everything outside of me is what it is completely on its own, as if the experiences and the traumas and everything that has happened to me, that's who Biola is. It is not. Those are experiences and traumas and things that have happened to me, but they are not me. I don't even discern the divinity of who I am. I am a spectrum of divinity in this dimension and multiple dimensions beyond. With that understanding, I know that how I'm perceiving the world is through the lens of my experiences and my trauma, and I give things a nature based on that. However, those are not an accurate depiction of what the things that I'm experiencing are, including my family. So even the most effed up situations, where people have done the most effed up things to me and or to people in my family, it's easy for me to say that those people are these things. However, they are a spectrum of divinity, and I'm only experiencing like a sliver of who they are. So if I continue to show up attached, fixated to them needing to show up a certain way to appeal to an inner child that I have not healed on my own, then I am limiting how they can show up, and I am also limiting all of the ways that I can love them, which is going to help me mature in love and help them embody a greater nature of love. So I am releasing expectation because I'm discerning that you are a spectrum of divinity, and I don't know what that looks like. And instead of saying you need to show up this particular way to make me feel better, I'm going to allow you to show up however you want to, so that I can expand my maturity in love. Now, if you're showing up a certain way that is not supportive or that is harming to me, that does not embody ahimsa, which is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, then I am going to maneuver around that. I am going to either create a boundary, or in love for myself, I am going to take a separation, remove myself, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure that I'm not in that situation. However, I'm not going to say you need to show up this way, that way, and the third just to make me feel better, because that is also limiting my growth. Because once again, your family, your parents, your siblings, everyone in your family, like, they are so much more than what we're experiencing. This little sliver of trauma that we keep experiencing with them, they are so much more than that. And that growth starts from how we are viewing our external world. And as a result, as we start to expand how we are viewing them, they become what we are viewing them as. So if I'm viewing these people through a lens of love and not trauma, through a lens of acceptance and not trauma, through a lens of forgiveness and not trauma, they start to embody the nature that I am giving them. The fourth key thing, which is super important, that I will say is that forgiveness is a process. My apostle told me this several years ago. We think that forgiveness is something that we need to gulp down and take all at once, but forgiveness is a process, and you determine that length of time. You might start forgiveness at a certain level one day, and you might be carrying and moving through that forgiveness for an extended or shorter period of time, and that is okay. Me healing this familial trauma is like years and years and years in the making, because I do understand and discern that my family is and has experienced their own levels of trauma, and there's still a lot of different things that I'm learning when it comes to moving through familial trauma and healing. One of the main things is trust, learning to have a trust for your family where you're openly allowing yourself to show up and not filtering yourself. However, those 4 steps have got me to such a place of deep regulation within my nervous system, such a deep ability to hold myself, to listen, and to interpret things as they are. So know that as you move through this process, as you move through these key steps, you can arrive in that place as well where you feel settled, where you feel regulated, and where you feel like you can hold all of yourself in the midst of all the craziness that is our families. And I also know that at this point in time, the release of generations within my family will most likely come from me. And if you're watching this video, that means that you are most likely the releaser or the lever that's going to bring the deep release within your family. I want to take a moment to celebrate you, and I applaud you on this journey, and once again reinforce that you're not taking it by yourself. I hope that it was illuminating for you. Definitely let me know in the comments where you find yourself in those 4 key points. And I look forward to seeing you very soon at our Chakra Masterclass on May 9th or on May 13th at our community care virtual yoga class. You'll find both of the links to register for free below. And I'll see y'all very soon. Continue to be well and follow your girl on the gram at Yoga by Biola and at ea.well.